Welcome to the GSMC Financial News Podcast, the show that delves into the ups and downs of the stock market, changes in the economy, and news from the worlds of real estate and technology. From breaking news on the New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, or the overseas market, to updates on the bond market, if there's money to be made, we've got you covered. Hello and welcome to the GSMC Financial News Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Sarah. Hope you're having a great week so far. If you joined me for the last episode, you know we talked about planning for a baby, saving for a baby, saving for, a baby's lifetime. And one of the things that we talked about was saving for college. And I wanted to explore that a little bit more today. So the best ways to start saving for college, if you have one child, if you have two children, if you however many children you have and you want to start saving, it's best to start as soon as possible because, according to the Wall Street Journal, the average college graduate's student loan debt is at a whopping $37,172, and that is just the average. I know people who have way more student debt than that, and it's a lot. It's a lot to pay off, and it can be, it can be challenging to pay off depending on how you've set up your student loans and if you've consolidated them and how that all works. The most recent data from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York shows the overall student loan debt in America hovering at just over $1.3 trillion. That's trillion dollars. At this rate, college graduates will be lucky to have their student loans paid off before their kids start college. So, as a parent, or maybe even, maybe you're even a young child thinking about saving for college, but as a parent, you're probably thinking there has to be another way. There's got to be a different solution. You can start saving for college, of course, by opening a college fund. It's not easy to save enough, but with focused dedication, hard work, and careful planning, it's possible to save enough so your child can go through college debt-free. It is possible. So really, when should you start saving for college? We generally start advising parents to start saving for college as soon as they can, of course. There are factors. Every family is different. A lot of times it's, a bit more complicated than just saving as soon as you can. Starting a college fund is a great goal, but it's not the only goal, of course. You have other things to save for. You're trying to raise children. You're trying to maybe pay a mortgage. You're trying to save for retirement. You're trying to do all of those things. And you likely have those other financial mortgage. You might even still be paying off your own student debt. So how do you start thinking about saving for your children's college funds? You don't want to neglect your own money goals, especially when it comes to those retirement savings. But, and there are other ways to pay for college, like through grants or scholarships. Bottom line, though, you need to take care of your future as well. But you can include college saving as part of the overall plan. Before you can start saving for your children's college fund, it is important that you've already done the following steps. And this is according to Dave Ramsey, who does the Financial Peace University stuff. The following steps. Paid off any debt. This includes things like your credit card debt, your own student loan debt, etc. Set up an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of expenses to cover any unexpected costs. Put 15% of your income toward retirement savings through your employer-sponsored retirement plan, like a 401k and or a Roth IRA. The best way to start a college fund is that first you need to figure out how much you need to save for college. Well, how do you figure that out? Especially, when you're thinking, okay, my child is not even born yet, or my child is 2, or my child is 10. Well, how do you figure out what college is going to cost? You don't even know where your kid's going to want to go to college if he or she wants to go to college. So how do you figure out how much to pay? Well, there are college savings calculators out there. If you just Google that, then something will come up. They ask some questions about yourself. Are you the student? Are you the parent of the student? What state do you live in? How many years until you attend college? And then what college are you considering attending? That's a little trickier if you are, if your baby's in the womb. But you could, I don't know. I think I might choose something a little on the higher end just to try to be on the safer side. How many years do you plan on attending college? What do you expect your monthly living expenses to be? Again, that can be a little tricky, but you just estimate. And then how much do you currently have saved for college? How much do you expect to receive in scholarships and grants each year? And these are some questions that are a little hard to answer, but depending on where you are in the process. But that's one example of a college savings calculator, and you can look those up and see if it gives you an idea of how much you need to save. So this article recommends saving for your children's college using the following 3 tax-favored plans. The first one is an education savings account, ESA, or an education IRA. An ESA, that education savings account, allows you to save $2,000 after tax per year per child, plus it grows tax-free. If you start when your child is born and save $2,000 a year for 18 years, you would only invest $36,000, which sounds like a lot, but, it isn't when it comes to college. While the rate of growth will vary based on the investments in the account, you'll likely earn a much higher rate of return with an ESA than you would in a regular savings account, and you won't have to pay taxes when you withdraw the money to pay for education expenses. Why they like it: variety of investment options, and it grows tax-free. Why they don't like it: you must be within the income limit to qualify. Qualifications are limited to that $2,000 per year, and the amount must be used by the beneficiary by age 30. So that is the first option. The second option is a 529 plan, which we talked about in the last episode. If you want to save more for your children's college education, or if you don't meet the income limits for an ESA, then a 529 plan could be a better option. Look for a 529 plan that allows you to choose the funds you invest in through the account. You want to be careful about using a 529 plan that would freeze your options or automatically change your investments based on the age of your child. The right 529 plan will also give you the option to change the beneficiary to another family member. That's helpful. So if your firstborn decides not to go the college route, you can still use the funds you saved for the next kid in line. You don't just have that money sitting there. I don't know. I don't even know what you do at that point if you can't change it. Why they like it: it has higher contribution rates, which vary by state, but generally you can contribute up to $300,000. Most of the time there aren't any limits or restrictions based on age, and it grows tax-free. Why they don't like it: restrictions may apply if you choose to transfer your 529 plan funds to another child. Let's go ahead and take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about that third option for saving for college and just some more tips on how to go about saving for your child's college education. Stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Financial News Podcast, and I'll be right back.
Hi, this is Alexander Green, Chief Investment Strategist for the Oxford Club. Just for a moment, I'd like you to picture the perfect stock. No doubt it would have hundreds of billions in revenue, more than IBM, Facebook, and Google. It would probably be a leader in cutting-edge technology like smartphones and robotics. It would be on the verge of dozens of blockbuster announcements. But most of all, it would be ultra cheap, trading at less than $3 a share. Now, it may seem crazy that such a stock exists, but it does. It's a cutting-edge tech company that has made deals worth hundreds of millions of dollars with Nokia, Microsoft, and Cisco, and a $29.2 billion deal with Apple. It's set to create 50,000 new jobs right here in America, and Donald Trump even calls it the eighth wonder of the world. Yet you've likely never even heard of the stock. Why? Because it trades under a secret name. To find out how the secret $3 stock could help you retire, simply go to OneStockRetirementNow.com. That's OneStockRetirementNow.com.
Welcome back to the GSMC Financial News Podcast. We are talking today about saving for college. And the third option listed in this article from Dave Ramsey is a UTMA or UGMA, which is a Uniform Transfer / Gift, that's the T or the G, to Minors Act. So Uniform Transfer or Uniform Gift to Minors Act. And UTMA / UGMA differs from ESAs and 529 plans in how they aren't designed just for education savings. The account is in the child's name that is controlled by a custodian, usually a parent or godparent. This person manages the account until the child reaches the age of 21. At age 21 or age 18 for the Uniform Gift to Minors Act, control of the account transfers to the child to use any way they choose. Why they like it. Funds can be used for more than just college expenses, tax advantages for the contributor, and then here's why they don't like it. The beneficiary can use money however they choose once of legal age to pay for college or a sports car, depending on, you never know. And the beneficiary cannot be changed after he or she is selected, so that can be restricting. Now, of course, parents aren't the only ones that have to worry about college costs. Depending on your situation, you may be able to help with all of those college costs, or you may be able to help with some, but often college students need to figure out ways to contribute to that as well. So you want to definitely get your kids involved in this effort. Even though your child is a full-time student, there's no reason they can't start building up their own savings funds. At the very least, doing this will help establish healthy money habits that they'll carry into the future. So here are some college savings tips to help get them started. Number one is to apply for scholarships, of course. It's free money for college that you don't have to worry about paying back. If your child excels in athletics, academics, or extracurricular activities, they should try to get rewarded for it. Encourage your children to apply for any scholarship they're eligible for. Even the small ones can add up fast. Check out, there are free scholarship search tools to find thousands of scholarships and grants that can help your kids pay for college. So it's a lot easier now with the internet. You can use those tools to find scholarships. It wasn't quite as easy before the internet, and you had to go searching for all of that information with no Google. Terrifying. Your child should take AP classes, which are advanced placement classes, which give high school students the opportunity to earn college credit while they're still in high school. Every AP class taken in high school is one less class you'll need to pay for in college. So advise your child to talk to their academic counselor for more information. See if your school has AP classes. See what see how that works. I actually have a family member, a cousin who graduated in the state of Washington with an associate's degree by the time she graduated. So she graduated from high school with an associate's degree. I don't remember the name of the program, but there's stuff out there. There's a lot of stuff out there. I know Oregon has some programs like that. Maybe that was also Washington. I've got friends and family who have done things like that, but I would need to look into that more. But if you have a child who is wanting to take on those extra challenges, there are there are programs out there. Number 3 is for the student to get a job, whether they take on a full-time job during the summer or a part-time job during the school year. They will be able to save money for college and gain work experience to put on their resume. They should open a savings account. If they are serious about wanting to build up their college savings, they'll need a safe place to keep that money. Most banks offer accounts specifically for students, which usually means waived monthly maintenance fees and no minimum balance requirements. If your child is under 18, you'll need to be the joint account holder. Save money instead of spending it. That can be a tricky one, right? Especially for kids. Money, oh my gosh, I remember when my oldest niece was 7 or 8, she got money for a birthday, and it was like $20 or something, but she did a dance around the living room and she was like, yes, I'm rich, yes! She danced and danced for about 10 minutes because she was rich. So, it can be exciting to get money, but work out plans for what you're going to save, what they can save, what they can spend, etc. On birthday money, Christmas money, all of those times when they may get money from friends, family, relatives, etc. It's never, of course, too early to start thinking about that college savings plan. Whether your child is a teenager or a toddler, you need to be thinking about these things. Whatever age your child is, the best time to start thinking about saving for college is, in fact, now. So you need to have a plan in place. Like everything else financial, you need to have a plan in place. Making the right plan for your children's future starts with knowing all of your options. And there are, of course, lots and lots of tools out there There are books out there. There are plenty of things out there that will help you to do this. Talk to other parents, set up your plan, talk to your child. Just start making your plan, start taking those steps. We're going to take another break, and when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about how to save money in college. Stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Financial News Podcast, and I will be right back. Do you work in the world of marketing and advertising? Are you a media buyer or the owner of an agency? Have you been looking for a podcast to help stay on top of all the goings on of those worlds? The GSMC Marketing News Podcast is dedicated to keeping you up to date on all things concerning marketing and advertising. Get the latest marketing news, from what major businesses have planned for the coming year to the newest trends in advertising, from podcasts, digital and streaming, to the old standbys of radio, television, and billboards. The GSMC Marketing News Podcast has you covered, whether you're a marketing agent or a business trying to expand your brand. Welcome back to the GSMC Financial News Podcast. We are talking about saving money for college, but what about saving money in college? It can be a lean time. You hear stories about eating nothing but ramen. You're trying to pay for, depending on if you live on campus, off campus. There are so many factors, and so. There are some tips for how to save money. This is another article from the Dave Ramsey website. And the more money you save during college, of course, the more prepared you'll feel and the less you'll freak out about going into the real world once you finally get your diploma. So if you can figure out how to pay for your college with little to no debt and save money in college, you are going to be so far ahead of the game, it's not even funny. So you don't have to eat ramen every single night in order to save money and ditch that debt. Unless you like ramen, just watch out for the sodium. There's a lot of sodium in ramen. But there are plenty of ways to save during college. So let's talk about how you cut some of your biggest college expenses. First off, how to save on housing. You've got to live somewhere, and so you've got options. But when you're a college student, housing can mean anything from a small apartment that you share with roommates to a luxury dorm with a hot tub and a view of the city skyline. I don't know where that luxury dorm is. I've never seen that dorm, but you need to keep it budget friendly. If you live close enough to campus where you can live at home, that's your least expensive option. You're probably ready to get out of the house, but if you're looking to save money and save costs, obviously this is something that could save you thousands of dollars every year on rent. Again, it depends on where you go. It depends on a lot of different factors. But then you need to compare the cost of living on campus versus off campus. Renting an apartment isn't always going to be cheaper than living on campus, and campus housing isn't always going to be cheaper than renting. It really depends on where you go to school. So you need to look at all the options available at your school and in the nearby college town to see what is the most affordable. Don't forget, when you're looking at living off campus, you have to factor in utilities costs as well as transportation costs. Find yourself a roommate. If you do rent an apartment, having a roommate or several will cut down on your expenses. Make sure your landlord has approved each of those individual roommates and that they all sign the lease so that you're not left hanging financially if one of them has to move out. That is very important. Having roommates in college can be really, really helpful, and it can also lead to a lot of disagreements and awkward living situations, but make sure they all sign the lease. You do not want to be left hanging if one of your roommates leaves. Ask yourself how much space you really need. You might want a huge kitchen or your own bathroom, but really be honest with yourself about whether you need extra room while you're trying to save money. You might be able to get by in a smaller space for right now, and then once you have a fully funded emergency fund and are financially stable, upgrade to something bigger. Get creative with your bills. Unplug your electronics when you're not using them. It does actually save energy. Use cold water when you can. Turn off the air conditioning or heat when the weather's good. Check for dripping faucets or lights left on before you leave the house, and hand wash some dishes. Some apartments have dishwashers, some don't, so you may be hand washing dishes anyway. Here's how to save money on food. It can be pricey, but you don't have to, again, eat nothing but ramen or other cheap processed foods if you can make some wise choices. So split food costs with your roommates. You can save a ton if you go in for groceries, actually groceries, not just processed food, especially if you buy in bulk. You can go to the grocery store together, you can cook together, and you can get some solid roomy buddy time. Hopefully you like your roommates. That's really key to any roommate situation. Be strategic about eating out. It is okay to eat out every once in a while when you are trying to save money, but constantly eating out, constantly, going to the bar and then going to eat waffles at 2 a.m. can add up. Especially going to the bar. Watch those bar tabs. If you're trying to save money, that's somewhere you can definitely save money. But budget the amount of money that you can spend on eating out every month. That does include things like, you're hanging out with friends at the bar or the club and your morning latte or coffee. Budget that. It can add up quickly. Once you spend that money, then it's gone. You have to be disciplined about not going over your budget. Be smart about your meal plan. Meal plan costs, vary depending on the school. Cheaper ones can be about $1,000 per semester, but some can be 3 times that or more. Some colleges might make you get a meal plan for your freshman year, so if you have to have one, make sure you actually use it. But if you don't have to have one, meal prepping and making food from scratch are your best friends. If you're trying to save costs when you're meal prepping, you can buy generic. There's all kinds of budgeting ways that you can save money on food. Meal prepping really does work. You have to have the space for meal prepping. So if you have a dorm size refrigerator, meal prepping is not your friend. But if you've got enough space for meal prepping, it can really help you save money. Here's how to save money on tuition and supplies, which can be a lot. Books are insane. Books were insane when I went to college 8 billion years ago, and they have just gotten crazier. But you can save money. There are more options now than when I was in college. You can buy textbooks on Amazon or at a used bookstore instead of at the campus bookstore. You can get used books at the campus bookstore sometimes, but do your research and see and do some cost comparisons. You probably won't find all of your required reading at those cheaper places, but even if you do have to use the campus bookstore, they often will give you the option to rent instead of to buy. I did not have that option in college, but definitely go with renting if you do that. And, you may think you want to keep all your textbooks. You're really not going to open most of them. There may be a few that you want to keep that you will actually use in the future, but it's not as many as you might think. Another way to save is to take classes at a community college first. So do a 2-year degree at a community college and then go on to a 4-year college. You can save a lot on tuition by doing your general ed credits at a community college and then heading off to your school of choice. The price difference is really amazing. Make sure, though, that your credits are going to transfer. You need to make sure that every state has different rules on what will transfer to which colleges. So make sure that your credits will transfer. You don't want to go and do 2 years and spend money and then not have those credits to transfer. Another way to save cost is to go to an in-state school, of course. The average tuition at a public in-state school is $10,000 roughly per year, and the average tuition at a public out-of-state school is roughly $26,000 plus per year. That's a yearly difference, of course, of more than $16,000. If it's an out-of-state private college, then the tuition, of course, skyrockets even more. So, apply for those scholarships. That's sort of a no-brainer. Try to get the grants. Try to get the scholarships. Find scholarships that might cover your books. Find scholarships. Any amount will help. And then, in terms of how to save money on transportation, depending on where you live, use public transportation, ride a bike, carpool, walk, do all of those things. You don't have to drive everywhere. In fact, driving on campus can be a pain in the rear, and it can be expensive to have to get the parking pass. Finding parking can be a giant pain in the rear. So do all of those things. Gas is expensive. Cars are expensive. So if you can cut down on those expenses, you'll be doing a lot. How to save money on entertainment. These are things that might not sound great. Cancel the cable. Yeah, I know. We all love our cable. But anyway, oh my gosh, it's so much easier now. There's so many ways you can watch TV without paying for cable. Especially if you can borrow your parents' Netflix password or their Hulu password or whatever it might be. There's a lot of ways you can watch TV without paying for crazy expensive cable. If you have a gym membership, cancel it. You can, your school is probably going to have a student gym that you can use. That is actually you're already paying for it as part of your fees and tuition. So use that gym. Don't pay extra money for a gym. Then there's also lots of groups on campus that are going to get you involved in moving and exercising, and you're going to be able to find a group that does something that you enjoy, and that can be free. It can help you make friends, etc. Go to the library. Yep, they still exist. They're amazing. If you're bored because you canceled your cable and your gym membership and you can't buy anything, there's always the option of reading books, and not just books at the library. They have movies, they have DVDs, they have CDs, they have all kinds of things that you can check out for free at the library. Yes, it's amazing. And so there's a lot of stuff. I mean, there are so many other ways that you can save money while in college if you're willing to make a few sacrifices and learn how to do things a little differently than you might be used to. You can really save a lot of money and go into your post-college life with less debt, maybe no debt. And that is a really amazing goal because, you know, when you're thinking about it, you're like, yeah, I'll just get student loans. I'll pay them off. It won't be any problem until you actually get out of school, get that first job. It doesn't pay great. You're struggling to pay rent and pay your student loans and buy food and do everything that you want to do. So if you can save as much as you can while in college, that's going to lessen things once you get out of college. So good luck. Thank you so much for joining me. If you are a fan of this podcast, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Also, give us a nice review, written or 5 stars would be amazing. Follow us on social media. Interact with us on social media. We love to hear from listeners. So tell us your thoughts. Tell us what you've done to save for college, whether as a parent or a student. If you're a student, tell us the ways that you have found to save money while in college. All of those real world tips are wonderful. Thank you again for joining me again on Thursday when we'll be talking about saving for retirement. Have a great week. You've been listening to the GSMC Financial News Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type GSMC into your favorite podcast app to find all of the shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, from business news to weird news. Please subscribe to the podcast and follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you've enjoyed today's podcast.